I'm Ron James, and this is MUFON Right Now. Tonight we're talking about the new show, Project Blue Book. The fictionalized account of J. Allen Hynek's early exploits has created a controversial subject inside MUFON. We'll hash it out. I brought show producer and son of J. Allen Hynek, Paul Hynek, to the MUFON studios to talk about it. Plus, enjoy some behind-the-scenes pics from my personal opportunity to meet the cast. Then, we have an excerpt from the Project Blue Book Facebook Live broadcast with Jan Harzan and the creators of the show. And I even tracked down the writers to hear their feelings about balancing the TV production formula with the facts. Also in the studio were Jan Harzan, Chase Klutsky, and Michael Schratt. We've got the best of those pieces. And last up, you get to see a sneak peek into my newest studio, Stage 7 at 1111. All of that and some new MUFON reports from Sky. So let's get to it.
Using alien technology to come to you from a spaceship somewhere far, far away, it's MUFON Live, with your host, Ron James, and our special guests. Let your imagination run wild as we explore the reality of the ET presence and what happens next. Welcome to MUFON Live.
Welcome back. MUFON helps A&E with a variety of its programming. Project Blue Book is the latest and maybe even the coolest attempt by the network to address the subject and draw a broader audience. Here's the trailer.
It went down just beyond those trees! Come on! This way!
The whole forest smelled like death.
Lord Almighty.
And then saw that thing. As God is my witness, it was not of this world.
We have a situation in West Virginia. Family reported seeing something falling from the sky.
I'll get down there right away. I need you to meet someone first.
Name's Dr. Allen Hynek.
You want me to investigate flying saucers?
I want you to help me prove to the public the truth. They don't exist.
Lori, Will, you can come on out now. Doctor, tell me what's happening to my babies.
If you believe that you have seen these strange lights in the sky, would you please raise your hand?
My name is Dr. Hynek. We understand that you saw an entity.
The men in hats, and they were scared.
You should be, too.
Alan's working on some really strange things. The flying saucers. More than that, I just don't feel safe anymore.
I'm wondering if Professor Hynek will one day be a problem that needs solving.
You think it's possible extraterrestrial life exists?
The probability of us being alone in our universe is 0. You're not under attack.
What the hell was that?
Those things were not planes.
How the hell would you know what types of planes the Russians have or don't have?
The Russians have nothing to do with this.
I am closer than I've ever been.
Need I remind you of our purpose here?
Flying saucers don't exist.
How do you explain the damage? What type of UFO could do that?
I'm sorry, UFO what?
They're watching us. Hey! There's something more going on here. I want to know what it is.
I said close the case.
What the hell do you expect?
I expected to discover the truth.
Logic can't begin to explain what we're dealing with here.
History makes no secret that they're playing fast and loose with the characters and the stories. But to their credit, they also have special features online after the show where the real case is compared with the story as it was shown in the episode. Here's a clip from MUFON director Jan Harzan and Paul Hynek speaking in a live online conversation about the show put on by A&E just prior to the premiere.
Happy New Year, Facebook Live, and welcome to our discussion of the new history drama series from executive producer Robert Zemeckis, Project Blue Book. I'm Arturo Interian, executive producer for history on Project Blue Book. We're here today with David O'Leary, the creator of the series.
Hey, everybody.
As well as Paul Hynek, son of J. Allen Hynek. Paul's a professor at Pepperdine University and a Wharton MBA. And we're also here with Jan C. Harzen. He is the executive director of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, an international organization that investigates thousands of UFO sightings to get to the bottom of the UFO phenomenon. So welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So let's start right at the top. David,
yes.
What is Project Blue Book?
So Project Blue Book was the official U.S. Air Force investigation into UFOs beginning in 1952 and running through 1969.
And I believe they investigated over 12,000 cases?
Correct. Over 12,000 cases, over 700 of which remain unexplained to this day.
Okay. Now, J. Allen Hynek is a very real person, and he's your lead character. He's played by Aidan Gillen, who had a lot of options after Game of Thrones, but said, this is the character, this is the person I want to play next. What was it about J. Allen Hynek that made you and the Academy Award-winning director of Forrest Gump and Back to the Future and Contact say, Hynek is our way into the story of UFOs?
Sure. So for those who don't know out there who Dr. J. Allen Hynek was, he was the chief, he was a civilian astrophysicist recruited by the Air Force to help Project Blue Book go out there and, explain what people were seeing in the skies. And he was a complete, skeptic on this phenomena when he started. But of course, over, the tenure of his time working on Project Blue Book, shifted sides, became to believe that, number one, UFOs are real and worthy of rigorous scientific study. Number two, he also felt that there was aspects of Project Blue Book that were really more about disinformation and sort of calming and controlling public perception about UFOs. And he just felt that it was one of the great mysteries of our time.
Tell us a little bit about your dad, J. Allen Hynek, Paul.
So he was a Czech boy from Chicago who didn't speak English until he went to kindergarten. And at the age of 7, came across a book on astronomy and was hooked for life. So he felt that he never really worked a day in his life. So fast forward to Wright-Patterson, he had security clearance from the war working on the proximity fuse. He had traveled around the world setting up the satellite optical tracking program. But he was also the closest astronomer to Wright-Patterson. So there are some conspiracy theories about what led them to choose him. But I think, since Project Blue Book was based out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, not the Pentagon, it wasn't really looking at for the bottom of UFOs. There was more of a PR exercise. So they just needed, I think, the closest astronomer. And people have asked, what my father thought about getting involved with it. I don't think he had any idea that it'd be 20 years or become something he'd become well known for.
Now, Jan, as executive director of MUFON, why, from your perspective, is J. Allen Hynek such a significant figure in the study of UFOs?
Well, I think primarily because he's one of the top scientists of his day who was brought in by the Air Force to hopefully explain away all these UFO sightings. And through his scientific rigor and pursuit of the subject and the investigations that he did, he came to understand that this is a real phenomenon. And these are physical objects in our skies with advanced technology that are not from planet Earth. And as a result of that, he created CUFOS, which is the Center for UFO Studies, which still exists to this day. And he spent a lot of time studying the subject. I sometimes wonder if other scientists and engineers had taken the same rigor that Dr. Hynek had looking into the subject, if we might not be further along technologically as a society. But we need to look to the future, not the past. And with some of the recent announcements in the New York Times with regard to other programs that we've heard about, this has really opened the door, Pandora's box, if you will, and huge things are going to happen technologically to us as a civilization going forward. And so I think this all stands on the shoulders of Dr. Hynek and the folks who put all this good, solid work together, starting with Project Blue Book and then following on with what MUFON does and other folks in this field.
It's good to see MUFON having a voice in the ongoing rollout of the ET Truth. But what about the show? Should MUFON be supporting a fictionalized program when we're supposed to be a fact-based scientific organization? I brought Paul Hynek, son of the show's main character, to the studio to talk about it. All right, fresh on the release of the new TV show on History Channel called Project Blue Book, MUFON Television is proud to have right here in the studio Paul Hynek, who is J. Allen Hynek's son and a consultant to the program. Paul, thanks a lot for taking some time to stop by the
Happy
studio.
to be here.
You know, I had the pleasure of being at the party, the cast party, and also the viewing party that you threw. And so I've met all of the people and the team that are putting the show together. And it's got to be gratifying to see your dad's story, even in a dramatized manner, coming to light.
Yeah, it really is. Up and down the line, from the creator of the show to the showrunner, the executive producers, and the network executives, as well as the cast, they're all very respectful of my father, or they wouldn't have done the show. And they've been very conscientious to try to find the authentic core of my father, my mother's characters, and also the amalgamation of the Air Force personnel, and portray them in an authentic way, albeit in highly dramatized scenarios.
You know, now that you mention that, we'll cut right to the chase, because this is MUFON Television, and a lot of the MUFON people are hardcore, fact-based people. And so criticism pops out of, you know, A, why is MUFON in any way helping A&E with this? And we've been in the peripherals for a while with a lot of A&E projects. And B, why is MUFON like saying, hey, we're happy to be, you know, associated with this and have Paul and go to the parties and meet the people and be involved. And so, you know, there's a certain hardcore element of MUFON, and then other people that see what MUFON is supposed to represent and does represent, that think that they're off their track for supporting this kind of show. I personally don't agree, and I'd like to hear your take on it.
Well, I think it's kind of like the balancing act my father had to do when he was with Project Blue Book. He had to work with the Air Force, he had to talk to mainstream science, and also the community of believers in UFOs. And here, this is a show that doesn't purport to be fact-based. Well, it's based on facts, on real people and real UFO cases, and then as it acknowledges, it highly stretches those scenarios. At the end of each episode, it presents some of the real information that was reported in the cases, and they do a lot of interviews with my brother and I, and Jacques Vallée and Richard Dolan, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Friend, and others, to say what really happened. So I think they're trying to portray a balanced view of these UFO incidents. And one of the things about fictionalized representations is things like Close Encounters in its day, and now even with the early returns of Project Blue Book, it really helps to raise awareness and sort of give way to more social acceptability to talk about this very controversial phenomena in a way that an accurate, you know, to the T documentary can never do.
Hollywood's always going to be Hollywood, and dramatic license has to happen in order to capture the attention of the mass audience. You just can't, can't just give people facts and things that are dry. There has to be a storytelling structure and dramatic flair to what people put out. And I think that you're right. There's a net positive from this, just like the show Hangar One for MUFON, even though it wasn't always 100% true to the cases. It was a net positive in the extra public awareness that it helped generate.
That's right. That's right. I think my father would look at the show and sit in his comfortable chair and have a grand old time watching a show that I feel confident he would feel that people know is not supposed to be accurate in every detail, and yet is as fair in its portrayal of what people have said that they've seen.
To the credit of history, and you kind of touched on this, they have really come out just putting it on the table. Look, this is a dramatized program. It's not 100% factually accurate. It's fun. It's entertainment. But we're making the effort of making the real case files available to people that want to dig deeper. So they're not purporting to pass off non-factual material. They're acknowledging that, you know, we're having a little fun with this.
Right, and even in the second episode, the Flatwoods Monster, they presented it in a way saying that it was not an actual UFO. That it was, they had a very terrestrial explanation.
And then the real case, you had access to the real case files. You've got access to ancillary videos that talk about the real case.
There's more information on the website if you want to dig deeper.
So I think that's a really good approach. And I think that people that are criticizing both the History Channel and MUFON for supporting the show, and really anybody else that wants to blame the mainstream media television program for doing what it's doing the way it's doing, I think that really they just need to understand that there's nothing deceptive here, and there's nothing that's in the interest of hiding the truth.
I think it raises the tide or the water for all the ships. And I understand, and I've had people ask me and write to me and say, look, I think there's a danger here that a show like this can sort of add more onion layers to the sort of conspiracy, you know, milieu of the phenomena. But I think it does get more people talking about it, and the more people talk about it, the more they look at it, the more they dig into it, we may get more, we may swell the MUFON ranks.
Well, I think that's what we're hoping. You know, we want to see people understand that more information is coming out about this. It's coming fast and furious, and some of it's going to be on, you know, a collective level, a little hard to deal with and a little difficult to digest. And MUFON is kind of there. It's been there for 50 years. It's the community for people that really want to find other people that they can talk to about it, and we've been that for a long time. So how do you feel personally about the show?
I think the show is great. I think it's a lot of fun. And it does have, you know, with the extracurricular materials that history is doing, it does have a balanced portrayal. You know, it's got a very nice look and feel. You know, it's got a very filmic feel because Bob Zemeckis, the executive producer, lent his cameraman to the show. So it's got a very high production value. The actors are just fantastic. I mean, my TV mom and TV dad are awesome actors, and it's just fun having a supervillain from Game of Thrones be my dad.
Yeah, that's really cool. And the show's really well acted. It's a period piece, and they've really spared no expense on enforcing that.
That's right.
So it's really fun to watch. The audience, I'm sure, wants to know, from the Paul Hynek perspective, what was it like to grow up in that house during that time?
You know, in many aspects, it was a normal middle-class upbringing in the Midwest, although we had little flourishes like UFO ornaments on the Christmas tree, or a ball bearing that was supposedly from a UFO case in Florida, a painting of Travis Walton being zapped on the wall in the laundry room, and these little anachronistic flourishes in the house. And then there was the dinners that we had, where we always had fellow professors and astronomers and scientists, and then fairly often people involved with the UFO phenomena, either a researcher or a witness. And so we had Father Gill and Charlie Hickson, all kinds of people come by the house and relate their unique vantage point on UFOs. So somebody asked me, how did you, and when you asked me how it felt to grow up there, it was just normal. UFOs and science and questioning reality were part of the fabric of our daily life.
Now, we were at the screening party. You guys were telling some stories from those days.
Right.
And one of the ones that I thought was pretty fascinating is that you guys conveyed that every once in a while, some men in black would show up.
There were a lot of interesting characters that came by, some of which I understood, some of which I didn't. And yeah, that's all I'll say. There was just a whole coterie of spectrum of people that came by.
Now, did your dad ever really sit down with you and talk specifically about this topic and how it made him feel and what he believed?
Oh, absolutely. And I think a saying that I don't remember hearing him say specifically, but I think sums up really how he felt about it, was that I'd rather have questions that I can't answer as opposed to answers that I can't question. My father felt you should always have an open mind, because one of the things he would tell us as children is that you have an established scientific paradigm that could change tomorrow. And so something that you've been brought up believing your whole life could radically change. So you should always keep an open mind. And you should keep an open mind when exposed to what seems to be bubbling up to have enough critical mass to be a new phenomena. But then likewise, after you've been around and maybe you've been in that milieu for a while, you should not close your mind too early, just flailing around and grabbing the best available answer. So for example, with UFOs, my father really wasn't that keen on the extraterrestrial hypothesis. There are some really non-trivial problems with that. And so he thought, look, as a scientist, I can categorize UFO sightings. And I can apply a rubric, a classification system, to help scientists around the world study them in a more apples-to-apples fashion. But in terms of where they come from, that's not really the purview of a scientist.
How does it make you feel to know that the producers of the program and even some of the cast actually really care about this topic?
Oh, it goes back to what I said about everybody being respectful of my father. David O'Leary, you mentioned the creator, and Arturo Interian, the network executive at History, know more about UFOs than just about anybody I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people who know a lot about UFOs. I mentioned things like Project Twinkle to them, which is a fairly obscure reference, and they just go running with exactly what it is. So the knowledge base of the network executive and the creator really set the stage for this being a serious fictional inquiry into the phenomenon. And everybody I've talked to does see this, as you said, as one of the most important questions to face mankind. And this is a way that they feel they can really move the needle significantly to have that dialogue expanded.
The History Channel seems like it is really embracing the ET question in a whole variety of ways. They're creating programming to meet all kinds of different demographics, all kinds of slants, all kinds of themes. Tom DeLonge is doing something with skateboarders investigating the paranormal.
Well, they had ancient aliens, and now Project Blue Book is modern aliens.
So when we see on Project Blue Book, you know, that last scene of episode 2, they're standing in a hangar with a flying saucer that's covered up, that's probably more truth than fiction. So there's elements of our society, be it government, be it people that are deeper than government, that know more about this than they're telling. And I think that at some point, as much of this as possible has to come out. And I think we're standing on the precipice of that time.
Well, that'd be pretty cool. It's been a long time coming.
So there you go. Talking to Paul was really a treat. And I think we hit the candid questions and covered the important points. It's great insight into the family's view of the show. Plus, it was fun having a chance to ask Paul what it was like to grow up in the Hynek household. At another event, I was able to catch the writers of the show talking about how they balance the requirements of TV drama, the structure of story, the difficulty of getting a program to the air, with their own personal sense of obligation to the truth.
And what I'd like to ask you, either through the spec script you did about J. Allen Hynek or Milan, what are the challenges of writing a story that may be stretched a little bit about a real character?
I mean, we always strive for true, if not accurate. You know, you have to take some dramatic license. You know, you're hemmed in by conventional story structure. And needing to adjust when some things happened, or
because life is, let's face it, not generally in a nice 3-act structure that's going to end in 2 hours.
So that's where writers come in to you know, tweak it and stuff. And so yes, the quest is always to stay true to the spirit, but to create something that really has dramatic drive, and depending on the format of the piece, and you know, whether this is a story you're trying to tell in 2 hours or in 50 hours, there's a lot of variability in terms of what you need to adjust in the journey from point A to point B.
But we know history has done a great job of keeping the spirit of Alan in this piece, and his journey from skeptic to believer is always the word I hesitate to use, but for lack of a better term.
Believed in the phenomenon.
Yeah, believed in the phenomenon, yes.
You could debate.
Right. And from just being around the Hyneks for many years, of course this is a common conversation at the dinner table, and so I will say that this is a wonderful example of how to keep the spirit while dramatizing the details in a more exciting fashion.
Right, one way to look at it is that not everything here is accurate, but it's authentic. So TV mom and dad, because I can't get enough of that, are thrust into circumstances beyond which my real parents actually faced. But it seems to us that it rings true that they react in a way that's sort of honest to the sort of kernels of their characters. So that's what made the family happy.
Here's Sky with a MUFON report, straight from our latest and coolest case files.
MUFON TV reports, Case 85012, an Ohio witness at Girard reported watching on videotaping a huge glowing disc-shaped craft hovering over a golf course on July 7, 2017. The witness was quite shaken, as this was the second night in a row it appeared. He reports the craft as being huge, estimating 300 feet, with pulsating lights of yellow and red. Once again, there was no sound. Take a look at the video.
The f*** is that? It's crazy. Mary, that's nuts. That's 2 nights in a row. Mary, that is insane. insane. I can't.
It's flying upwards.
It's not moving at all.
Yes, it is. It's going towards the left.
Case 892199, on February 19, 2017, a Wisconsin witness at Campbellsport reported watching and videotaping a bright disc-shaped object hovering over a nearby tower. The object was described as being very bright with 6 bright white lights in a circular pattern. The object moved very fast from left to right. The size of the object is described as being bigger than an airplane. Take a look at the video.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I'm getting it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Because it can't be a plane. What? I don't know if it's a plane. Are you videoing it?
Yeah. What the hell is that?
It's a plane.
Case 81872. A Minnesota witness at Fridley reported watching and videotaping a giant ball of solid white light that first was hovering and then moved in several directions before moving away on February 2nd, 2017. I will start by saying the synchronicity in this was mind-bending in its own right, the witness stated. The object appeared to be shiny, round sphere with a bright white color.
Wow.
And that one is just stayed in the same spot.
Yeah, that one's it's a plane or something, if I remember correctly. I'll film that. But yeah, this thing's coming right overhead now. There's no sound. There is no sound. It's changing directions. There's no flashing lights. Well, I have seen this shit before, and I lost some things. Where'd it go? There it is. And there it is again. It's... calling that right now.
And for a little bit, when I was right overhead, it looked like it was just barely leaving.
Yeah, I saw that too. I want to see if I can. I want it to see if it hovers or anything. That'd be great. I mean, you're more than welcome to come back this way. I will not deny first contact.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be nice if a plane. I've got one where a plane does fly over, and but it was so quick. The last one I got, it was in a different sky. Well, I'm back up a little bit here. Ow! Can't believe my roommate's missing this.
I was also lucky enough to attend the cast party just prior to the premiere. I wanted to talk to the producers and the cast and get an idea how they felt about the show and the topic in general. In conversations with the cast, I felt a personal obligation to see if they understood the importance of the subject, how it influences the future of human evolution, and more. I was delighted to find that most of the cast members are followers of the topic and that they felt the importance and timeliness of the show. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a tourist. I stumbled into J. Allen Hynek's office set, got abducted by aliens, and generally had a really good time. But mission. Now on to some more cool stuff. MUFON Director of Investigations, Chase Klutsky, and Jan Harzan were both in the studio. Check out what Chase had to say about some of the exciting roles MUFON members can pursue.
I tell people that we've already had disclosure because I honestly believe that on December 16th, 2017, when the New York Times broke the story that the Pentagon had a UFO program, I mean, that pretty much did away with 70 years of denial, saying we don't have any interest in this subject, there's nothing there. Well, if you've got a UFO program where you're collecting data as the U.S. government and as the military, that says that there's something there. People here from the Pentagon, U.S. government, the CIA, and other places basically reaffirming what we've all known for the past 70 years, which is that these UFOs are, in fact, advanced craft flying in our skies.
It isn't just MUFON's just focused on, you know, crafts, nuts and bolts. There's a real service offered to people, as you mentioned, have absolutely nowhere else to go.
Well, MUFON's a place where people can come and tell us, share with us what has happened to them. And we will help them get whatever help they want, whether they want to go find a support group to go talk to like-minded people who've had similar experiences, whether they're looking for suffering from post-traumatic stress and they need help with a psychologist or a doctor to help them deal with that. There's all sorts of things. Mostly they just want someone to talk to. That's the #1 thing. There's nobody I can talk to except you guys.
So much information that we've learned over the years too, that we now know how to better do this, and that support group, and it's very, very important.
We have an experiencer research team under Kathy Martin and George Medich and a whole team of people who work with experiencers, people who report to us having interactions with non-human entities in their bedrooms at night or out on a dark road when they're driving on the highway, and they have these interactions. And frankly, it's just like 40 years ago, 50 years ago, reporting a UFO, you couldn't really tell your neighbor about it because they thought you were a crazy person. Today, probably not so much so. But talk to someone about being an experiencer, having run into an extraterrestrial, having some kind of interaction with a non-human entity, and you really get a funny look.
So as far as investigations, where's that heading in the future? We've created 4 tiers because we realize that investigators come with specialties or earn them or work really hard for them, so we want to reward them with it. So you start out as an FI and then you become a field investigator, and then we have the STAR team, right. And these are like your detectives. Right. You know, they're handling, you know, some of the murders or some of the bigger crimes that would take up the time off the streets. And then you have a SAT team, and SAT stands for the Special Assignment Team. That's your task force. Right. That's when you have something so big that you call in your experts from, you know, different disciplines. Right. And this is how we get a big story. And SAT team's been extraordinarily successful with, you know, 7 huge cases last year that were revealed in full on our journal covers.
Yes. And you know, because I spoke to you many years ago about starting this team, the SAT team, and we decided that within CMS, our case management system, where reports come in from the public, that all gets handled through our state leadership teams and our field investigators. But we have these cases that come in, I call it over the counter, either through my in-basket or we find out about them, and they're really not a CMS type case. In other words, it's not an actual sighting. It might be someone calling and saying, hey, when I was in the Air Force back in 1962, this happened to me. And it might not have anything to do necessarily with a UFO. It could be with an extraterrestrial entity body that they had dealt with, or something they heard or saw, and there's really no place to put that in the current system. So we had to create this special assignment team to go look at those one-off cases on a longer-term basis and try to determine what's there. And then, as you said, we've been publishing the results. You have been publishing the results in the MUFON journal, so
every one of them.
See that.
Exactly.
For those people who don't want to necessarily become a field investigator or a researcher or do anything of that nature, they can just join and help the cause by being part of the movement and attend the local chapter meetings. I mean, we have these all over the country, not in every state, but in most states. And if you don't have one in your state, you can also help put one together and make it work. So, I mean, people can just basically become members and sit and enjoy being presented the facts of the subject without a whole lot of work, really.
MUFON has something to offer everyone. Even if you don't want to spend time being an investigator, your membership helps support important work and puts you in the insider loop as this mystery unfolds. Please consider joining MUFON and finding a community that understands your journey.
MUFON TV reports, Case 92499, a British witness at Crieff, Perthshire, Scotland, reported observing a disc or puck-shaped object traveling in and out of the clouds. The witness, whom was able to get a quick video of the object, stated, "You could clearly see it was circular when viewed from underneath. In brief, it traveled at a constant speed, approached a cloud formation, and then banked and went back into the cloud." Here's a quick look. Case 82230. A Washington witness at Everett reported watching on videotaping 3 lights of unknown origin forming a triangle. Witnesses stated he observed 3 white blinking lights in a triangle formation to the south, presumed them to be aircraft, although it stayed considerably longer. He goes on to say, the lights seemed to be attached to nothing. They never moved or made any noise. Here's the footage we have on this. Case 93454. In Buckeye, Arizona, at 11:15 p.m. June 28, 2018, a vertically aligned donut-ringed object with a yellow-orange light surface appeared below the moon, traveling from southeast to northwest at extremely high velocity and low altitude, roughly 500 to 1,000 feet AGL. The witness stated, the object made absolutely no sound, but at closest approach was within 1 mile of our vantage point. The witness is a United States Air Force veteran and a Special Operations Intelligence Analyst who previously held a top secret with caveats clearance.
I had an amazing opportunity to bring Michael Schratt into the MUFON TV studio. Michael is one of those guys who has devoted incredible time and talent in a labor of love, with no desire for fanfare and a genuine commitment to making his own unique contribution to the field. Michael knows a lot, and I decided to pick his brain about the reality of secret space programs. Check it out. So Michael, you were a presenter at the 2017 MUFON Symposium, and I was really impressed with your common sense approach to what may or may not be out there as far as a secret space program. So let's talk a little bit about what you found in your research into what may or may not be happening.
I think the best way to approach that is to keep drilling down on the contractors, because I think the secret really lies with them, really. For example, McDonnell Douglas, which is now Boeing, Northrop, Rockwell, Lockheed, these are the contractors to really look into. What have they been doing? Skunk Works, you know, now that the F-117 is long since retired, what are these guys working on? They've got thousands of people working in Palmdale. What are they working on? It's been, since 1990, the SR-71's been retired. What's been going on since that time? They're not just standing still, they're still building things. And so that's the part to look into.
And what have you found? I know that you were talking about a space plane that can launch an orbital craft.
Absolutely, there is something called the Black Star program. But when the Challenger blew up, the Air Force was out of business. So an urgent call went out to the defense contractors, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Rockwell, McDonnell Douglas, to build us a very rapid response 2-stage to orbit space plane that could launch a small military payload or be used as a reconnaissance aircraft. This is what the aircraft looked like. It looked very similar to the 1960s vintage XB-70 built by North American Aviation, later Rockwell. The aircraft is 200 feet in length for the large aircraft, the mothership. It has a 120-foot wingspan. It has 16-foot tall winglets at the terminating part of the wings. It uses a splitter XB-70 air intake on the lower portion of the mothership, and that's for the using of the launching of the parasitic aircraft off the belly of the mothership. Any evidence to prove this? We've got U.S. patent number 4,802,639 from Northrop that was published here in 1989, right around the right time frame. What they're showing is a slightly different configuration, but they're showing a two-stage to orbit spaceplane with this relieved section on the bottom where the parasitic aircraft can tuck up inside. There's a whole series of other programs that kind of fall within that same category. We're looking at multiple different vehicles. It looks to me that basically the aircraft are designed, they're built, pretty much manufactured at Air Force Plant 42 where the contractors are, but then at that point they're either shipped or flown or driven in trucks, unmarked trucks, to the test site, Air Force Flight Test Center Detachment 3, which is Area 51, and that's where they're test flown. So they're built in Palmdale, but they're flown out at the test site.
What about the replacement for the SR-71? Do you believe that the Aurora is actually a real?
The term Aurora, according to Ben Rich in his book Skunk Works, is referring to the procurement funding for the B-2 stealth bomber competition. So there was never any hypersonic aircraft called Aurora. There is something out there, but it wasn't called Aurora. According to Ben Rich, that's the procurement funding for the B-2 program.
Now, Ben Rich has been known on several occasions to say that we have the technology to take ET home. And MUFON's director, Jan Harzan, actually cornered him at one of his lectures and asked him that question point blank. And he told him that it all had to do with our understanding of space and time and warping space, and that's where the answer lie. What do you think about what Ben Rich was trying to tell us?
Good question. He also said that anything you can imagine the Skunk Works can do or has already done. He's mentioned that as well. He's also talked about how if you could see what's on our drafting boards now, they're fascinating and fantastic. Things along those lines. They're just, the implications of what that means could be incredible. He never went across that line, although he got close to it. And I've been told by a couple of different people who worked at the Skunk Works that a lot of statements he made over the years were designed to increase the morale at the Skunk Works. They weren't necessarily to be taken completely serious, but when you have someone that was just nearly ready to pass away stating that we have things that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend, I think there's something there. We have made the breakthrough. We absolutely have made the breakthrough. Anything you would see at your local air show is just decades old at this time. They're so far beyond what you can see anywhere at a local air show. I think we're the ones living in the dream world. We're the ones living in the matrix. We just haven't been given that access to that technology.
What do you think some of those breakthroughs are?
Anywhere in the world in less than 2 hours is one. Triangular shaped craft. I'm convinced, no doubt about it, that they're man-made for a number of reasons. Number one, we've got tubes, pipes, cylinders on the bottom of these vehicles. We've got multicolored flashing lights that go off in sequence. We've got this low-frequency electrical humming noise like a transformer or a sewing machine. We've got these fast G maneuvers and then the test flights on Thursday nights. When you put this all together, Ron, it really looks like we're looking at a man-made technology.
When people start talking about secret space, the stories go from, well, there's a few things that are obviously classified, all the way to there's an entire breakaway civilization right by our side that's running manned space fleets in the solar system and beyond, bases on Mars, bases on the moon. Where do you fall in accepting that as a possibility or a fact? And what does it mean to you when you hear these things, and where are they getting their evidence?
Okay. The best way to answer that would be that I take a more conservative approach, something that I can pin down on paperwork. For example, you as a taxpayer can go right into the Library of Congress and you can request something called RDT&E Programs R1. It stands for Research Development Tests and Evaluations Program R1. There's one for the Air Force, the Marine, the Navy, all of them. And you can get the Air Force document. It's a long, boring document. It's got code names called program element numbers. They give you kind of an unclassified code name, and then they give you how much was spent. You take the total amount and you subtract the knowns, and what you're left with are the unknown programs. That's how you can track the black budget programs. And then from that point, you start drilling down on the code names, like Oxcart, Omega, Theme Castle. And it's important to keep in mind is the shorter the code name, the more classified the program. So if you have Omega and you have Theme Castle, Omega would be more classified than Theme Castle.
Doesn't that put us from a defense standpoint in kind of a vulnerable position? I mean, it seems like, we're not the only country on the planet that's evolving advanced technology. And if we're not putting our best foot forward, then what are we doing with it?
Well, let me assure you, for one thing, if you hear any threat against the United States, the national security, someone coming against America or our allies, we got it covered. Don't worry about it. We got it covered. We have the assets to neutralize anything that comes up against us. I mean, we're the leader in black budget programs. We've got the assets to take care of it. That's the way it was told to me. So you can sleep at night, no problem. We can handle it. We've got it. We've got birds out there that are just beyond belief. It's beyond what you can even dream of.
Finally, something big is on the way. I'm proud to announce the creation of my best studio yet. I've built them, I use them to make a few episodes, and then I move on. But this one might be a keeper. Here's a sneak preview of Stage 7 at 1111. That's actually the street number, 1111. How cool is that? Check this out. All right. We're at it again, building yet another studio. This is going to be my 7th studio that I've built, and I put them up, I use them to make some shows, and then sometimes I take them down and build another one. So that's how it works. This is my best one yet. We're in about 2,000 square feet. It's going to have the workshop so we can build stuff, as well as the best set I've ever built for any of my shows. Come here, let me tell you what's going to be here. This is totally a work in progress. It's almost done, but the missing elements are the coolest. What will be behind me eventually is a whole set of television screens. Where I used to have pictures in my Bigger Questions set, and on the MUFON set, it's going to be all video. So there will literally be 6 55-inch TVs stacked right here, another 4 55-inch TVs coming into a diagonal wall, and then another 6 55-inch TVs closing off the third wall of the set. And then we're going to have a stage riser, which is over there, that lights up, as well as my cool little Shamu talk show host chairs that I bought. So this is the new headquarters for my shows. You're going to be seeing a lot of really exciting stuff coming out of here. Stay tuned. Okay, let's just call it done. I think I'm done.